Mitchell Hughes, ID 11841177, STMG488, the review of a failed strategic alliance. I've chosen to do mine on Volkswagen's strategic alliance with Suzuki Motors. The automotive industry, inherently large in scale and a high-cost enterprise, has faced numerous challenges over the past few decades, calling for consolidation and partnerships to combat effects such as tougher regulations over vehicle fuel consumption, emissions and passenger safety, to name a few, which has meant that car manufacturers have faced rising development costs, where pooling expertise and sharing the financial burden makes a lot of sense. In December 2009, Volkswagen purchased a 19.89% stake in the Japanese auto manufacturer Suzuki Motors, with both companies agreeing to share their technology and their networks to maximize their opportunities. However, both companies failed to reach an agreement on any of their proposed goals. There were two main reasons for the partnership which really stood out to me. The first, a major reason, was the collaboration between the two companies was intended to get them to cooperate heavily on technology, with the development of hybrid cars, electric cars, as well as parts procurement and the development of alternative drive technologies. A second reason was on expanding into emerging markets. Volkswagen wanted to use its size as the world's third biggest car manufacturer to tap into Suzuki's strengths in the small car market and their dominance into the fast-growing Indian market, which would also allow the automakers to pool their management resources, share auto parts to cut down on production costs, jointly develop the next generation of fuel-efficient cars. Industry analysts also expected that the combination between the two in the first half of 2009, with Volkswagen producing 3.265 million vehicles and Suzuki producing 1.15 million vehicles, would surpass those numbers of Toyota, who had 4.415 million before the year was out, to make them the largest car manufacturer for that year. But the collective issues started quite early for the companies. There were a few issues with not having a common language, colliding expectations, and no meeting of the minds. Expectations were very different right from the very start, and the issues weren't discussed openly between Volkswagen and Suzuki, especially at CEO level, which is where it really needed to happen. Another common cause of tension is long lead times for developing new products. There were disagreements in terms of technology and technology sharing and cooperation sharing. Since the framing of the partnership, the collaboration between the two companies was not progressing as expected, and in the first 2 years both of the companies had produced next to nothing. There was also quite a bit of a cultural mismatch aside from the language barrier. Proper cooperation in Germany and Japan obviously mean two different things, with Suzuki expecting to have had total independence and Volkswagen trying to impose their authority, having a $2.5 billion stake in the Japanese auto manufacturer. So some issues that were Volkswagen specific for their senior management team. They'd come to know that Suzuki was a notoriously independent company and had a chairman who was not going to bend over backwards to cooperate. Another reason, Suzuki had also hoped to receive technology from Volkswagen, which was on engine development for new cars, new diesel engines, and they ended up sourcing them from Fiat, which Volkswagen claimed to be an infringement of their cooperation agreement. And then that issue just ended up snowballing from there. Suzuki specific issues were the chairman for Suzuki indicated not being able to find any of Volkswagen technologies that he would like to adapt, having reviewed what the company had to offer. In March 2011, in its annual report, Volkswagen termed Suzuki as its associate, and that it could significantly influence the financial and operating policy decisions of that company. And obviously Suzuki management angered at the people of Volkswagen, telling their shareholders that Volkswagen can largely influence and the corporate policy of Suzuki. which also made the Suzuki executives feel quite uncomfortable because the two companies had agreed to remain independent partners on an equal footing where the partnership was signed, when it was signed. The Suzuki executives also began to assume that because the companies differed in size, people at Volkswagen may develop a mistaken view that Suzuki was an umbrella brand or a subsidiary to Volkswagen rather than an actual partner. However, Suzuki had signed this agreement under the condition that they were going to be on equal footing, therefore found it extremely hard to cope with the statements in Volkswagen's annual reports. Some key lessons that have actually come out of this. Alliances may start with the best of intentions, but can quickly run into trouble when it comes to realizing the actual benefits of working together. A comprehensive partnership without a meeting of the minds won't work at all, especially if there's no meeting of the minds at the CEO level. Hidden agendas destroy trust, with Suzuki wanting to outsource using another company after having just formed a partnership was quite distrustful, and without trust, partnerships don't work. Processes and methods, like acquisitions of minor players in Europe, operations that were successful in Europe may not translate to successful operations with Japanese manufacturers as well. Thank you.